Hello, my name is Karl-Filip Coenegrachts and I am a creative bureaucrat. First of all, I have to disappoint people that come listen to this talk because they want to know all about an oxymoron. An oxymoron is, well, the definition is on the screen, is a combination of words that do not feel right together. They do not fit, they are not a match. So creative bureaucracy, as such, does not feel like it is a match. And the purpose of my talk is to convince you that it is, and it should be, because it's important. The term creative bureaucracy is deliberately provocative because that enables people to talk about it. It was coined in 2017 by two people, Charles Landry, who is a British urban consultant, and Margie Cost, who is an Australian urban strategist. But they found that the things that really matter in cities come from ideas that were formulated by civil servants. And those civil servants do not get the credit for it. They are not valued for it. Well, not all civil servants are like that. And that has to do with the culture. A culture in a government organization generally is a no because culture. We all have an experience with a government organization where a civil servant tells you that it's not according to the rules, that, this, and that. Well, the whole aim of the creative bureaucracy movement that I will talk about is to move to a yes-if culture, to enable civil servants to say yes and to think together with other societal stakeholders in terms of solutions. Government organizations, well, they have a bad image. They have a bad image, but it's not fair to talk about civil servants as being lazy, being boring, working 9 to 5, and even when they're working, they're doing nothing. That's not fair. Sometimes the attitude of a civil servant has to do with the organization and the culture that he or she has to work in. And Charles and Margie found that all over the world, bureaucracies recruit bright people, bright, young, motivated people, and trains them to conform and to become the civil servants that we all have the bad image from. It has a lot to do with the role and the focus of the government. What is the government about? Is it about a night watch state? Working on law and order? Is it solely about creating the most efficient service delivery? Or is it something else? Well, the focus of government itself is very important to get to know also the focus of a bureaucracy, of the civil servants, and the way that they stand in society. Society. When we look at the evolution of society, over the past 10,000 years, we've seen a lot of changes. From the tribal society that had one leader and many subjects, over the ancient civilizations where you had several leaders that were delegated by the principal leader and had subjects, over the industrial society where everything was organized in silos, to the situation today, the network society. The network society is enabled by digital technologies, by globalization, and well, actually says that there are a lot of nodes of stakeholders in our society that are interconnected and that communicate constantly with each other to exchange information, but also come up with solutions to different problems. And those problems today are much more complex than they were 10,000 years ago. There are about 8 billion people all over the world with many societal problems of today, and the most important of those societal problems are wicked problems. There's no definition of a wicked problem, but we all know several of those wicked problems, such as climate change, international migration, the health crisis that we are in now is also a wicked problem. And wicked problems are characterized by one thing: you cannot solve them by yourself. You cannot only solve them by putting in place policies from a government side. You need a collaboration between the different societal stakeholders. And there we have the most important problem. Madeleine Albright, Secretary of State under President Clinton in the United States and Princeton University professor, already said it in the 1990s. We are taking 21st century challenges, those wicked problems. We look at them with glasses from the 20th century and we solve them, try to solve them with tools from the 19th century. Government is still organized in a 19th century way. In that industrial society, hierarchical way of thinking. Politicians today still think and have the illusion that they can solve everything with policies, that their vision is the most prominent, and that by launching rules, regulations, and law, that they can solve every single problem on this planet. I'm exaggerating, of course. But they cannot do it alone. Behind every politician stands a team of civil servants, a whole government organization that also come up with the ideas and that maybe even have better ideas than that politician comes up with. And there's a vast potential of civil servants that can play a role in coming up with ideas and solving problems. In Belgium alone, 11.5 million inhabitants, there's an estimate of 814,000 people working in the public sector, people that go to work every day, working for you, for the common good, for the public interest. The International Labour Organization estimates that there are 450 million people working in the public sector globally. And I think it's an underestimate. The OECD recently said that they think there are about 1 billion people working in the public sector. Just imagine if every single one of those civil servants can be activated to create new solutions to societal problems and are allowed to formulate ideas to solve those problems. But unfortunately, many of those civil servants are stuck in what David Graeber, who passed away unfortunately a couple of months ago, called bullshit jobs. They do not see purpose in their job. And that's not only true for government organizations, it's also true for private organizations. People are stuck in bullshit jobs. They don't have a purpose. So why is that? Why is that civil servants have the feeling that they have no purpose? Well, it has a lot to do with the governance model of government itself. And there's a new evolution over the past 100 or so years in thinking about how government should be organized. Starting with the classic bureaucracy by Max Weber, German sociologist. He talked about, or he described the concept of bureaucracy in an essay in 1922, putting the emphasis on impersonality. The government organization of bureaucracy should be a machine that runs smoothly, where every single element of the machine knows what it has to do. So there are many parts to that machine, and the top of the conductor of the machine decides everything. So it's very hierarchical, and people working in that machine do not have the power to move from one part of the machine to the other. They have to be more and more specialized in what they do. So that leads to civil servants, employees that are not allowed to be creative. They are not allowed to utter any ideas on how to do it better, on how to make the organization or even society a better place. Tapping into that, and as a critique to the classic bureaucracy, new public management was launched and adopted also by Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher in the 1980s and 1990s. They placed the emphasis more on management, hands-on management. Managers are the most important figures in new public management organizations. They work with standards, they work with controls, and their main focus is to make the organization, the government organization, more efficient and cost-effective. Quality is crucial. But that leads to employees that are stuck in a golden cage. They are paid well, and they are rewarded, even more rewarded in a financial way when they do a good job. So their incentives and their motivation are extrinsic. They are motivated by the rewards and the punishments of what they do, not necessarily by the societal outcome or value that they create for society. Again, a critique on new public management is new public governance, and that is actually the model that we are in today. And I should say, the evolution is not linear, it's not chronological. Government organizations today are still characterized by certain parts of bureaucracy, are still characterized by certain parts of new public management, and are starting to adopt also characteristics of new public governance. A new public governance, which is based on a network society, governance is more important than management. It's impossible to manage a network society. So government takes the place of one actor within that vast network of societal stakeholders. The focus is on the process and the outcome instead of the inputs and the outputs of every manager. It's all about collaboration and dialogue, and it's all about sharing responsibility in making decisions and organizing participation with the citizens instead of trying to do it all yourself. A civil servant is driven by intrinsic motivation. He's focused on the common good and the public interest. He facilitates the process of collaboration with the outside world. He has to be in the outside world and work with stakeholders in order to come up with good solutions and in order to come up with adapted solutions to the problems that are ahead. The public sector takes up the role of the connector of the dots, consolidator of the vision. It's still a very important role, but it's not the most dominant role within network society. So new public governance leads to a completely different governance and government of our society. An important aspect is open government within new public governance, because it uses also the power of new technologies by saying that open government should work with open data or should open up data. It's all about transparency, accountability, participation, and collaboration. And it's also all about co-creating solutions, co-creating policies. Working together is a crucial word in new public governance and in open government. In a government organization, and actually in every organization, semantics matter. When you have a lot of managers in your organization, it means that you have the feeling that you're being controlled. When you talk about governance, it's about collaboration. When you talk about management, it's about control. The citizen, when the citizen is being or is equal to a customer in your government organization, you also have a problem, because that means that you can be considered to be a supplier. A citizen should actually be a partner. And the term that I personally have the most problem with is human resources. If you have a human resources department, that means that somebody in your organization thinks you're a resource. I like the term people teams a lot more. Every bureaucrat is a creative bureaucrat. Also the gardener that takes care of the park in your neighborhood can be a creative bureaucrat, because he's working for your neighborhood, for more social cohesion, and so on. So every bureaucrat should be considered to be a creative bureaucrat. And to talk about all those things and to give a platform to civil servants all over the world to talk about their ideas, their experiences, and to exchange those ideas, we provided a platform, an international platform. There have been 3 editions of an International Creative Bureaucracy Festival, 2 in Berlin and 1 online, where civil servants and their allies met and talked about what drives them, what they do for the common good. And there was 1 edition last year, 2019, in Brussels, that brought together 270 civil servants from every level of government in this country. And finally, I have a request to you. When you meet a gardener, a police officer, or somebody at City Hall that is a civil servant, please know he works for you. He works for the common good. He works for the public interests, and he is driven by that. So please give them your appreciation. Thank you.